Hey, my friend. You gently pull the blanket up to your neck, feeling the warmth spread through every thread. Your breaths are steady, slow, like the deep, distant thud of a drum echoing in the stillness of the night. You close your eyes for a moment, then tune your ears to that sound. It's your own, the soft whisper of your breath, the pulse of life resonating from deep within your soul. That sound will guide you on an extraordinary journey, not through dry numbers or rushed snippets, but through the vivid, full-bodied experiences of those who lived millennia ago. You imagine yourself not just hearing, but feeling every moment of history. The blanket feels like a barrier between now and then. On this side, your cozy bed. On the other, the muddy tracks of medieval armies. You wonder, could a dream carry you back to a frosty dawn, where morning dew clings to a tattered blanket, and the clash of steel echoes through the fog? Let me, the spirit of the story, take your hand and lead you through the darkness so you can witness the raw, unvarnished truth of the past. From the very first seconds, you'll realize bedtime history isn't a collection of narrow summaries. It's a canvas of sensations. You'll smell the smoke of campfires, see the sticky mud beneath your feet, and hear the faint echo of a violin drifting from a distant age. You'll taste the sharp tang of warm ale, the only solace for parched soldiers in the wild, endless forests, and share the tense breaths of a Pony Express rider galloping through desolate trails, carving paths of courage with every hoofbeat. Do you know the sting of cold wind slipping through your fingers as you grip a spear's handle? You will. Do you know the shadowy outlines of armored knights shimmering in the early mist? You'll see them. And as the chaotic din of battle fades into the creaking stir of war elephants, you'll realize that what you're hearing isn't distant. It's the very breath of humanity, weaving its way into the space where you lie, curled between two blankets. Don't be afraid to smile as the story unfolds. Though those sounds may be fierce and that mud bone-chilling, there are moments of gentle humor, like when a soldier accidentally drops his stale bread into a puddle, or when a shield clatters face down, forcing the army to pause for a stifled chuckle, or at least hold their breath to keep from disrupting the battle's rhythm. These small, funny fragments will ease your mind, letting sleep arrive softly, peacefully, not harried by volleys of arrows or the clang of steel. Prepare to live the lives of ordinary people before they became legends. The weary medieval soldier after a long night at camp, the exhausted laborer building the Great Wall, the Pony Express rider with worn boots, and the violin craftsman tirelessly shaping wood to coax out a mournful melody. They'll come alive, not at a safe distance, but right within your mind, as you let your eyelids droop and your soul drift into the realm of memory. As your breathing slows, you'll understand. History isn't just events. It's breath, sweat, the trembling hand clutching a spear's shaft, the blazing chorus of voices in the dark. You'll step into a silent witness story, where every dewdrop, every muddy puddle, every hoofbeat, every violin note tells a piece of a life. The chafe of armor rubbing raw against skin, the bitter taste of ale mixed with mud, the shrill clatter of shields under a hail of arrows. These will punctuate your senses, making you feel, not just know. You won't watch a tidy sword fight like in the movies. You'll see a bloody, chaotic grinder of a battle, where glory sometimes means just outlasting the fear of death and clinging to the shield of friends long enough to survive. Then the scene shifts to the building of the Great Wall. Fog cloaks the stone mounds. Workers trudge with heavy bricks, each stone stacked into an endless barrier. You'll hear the groan of iron shovels, the laughter and sighs intertwined, for the ambition to create an eternal monument is stained with sweat, tears, and even blood. With the Pony Express, you'll touch the saddle's edge, feel the horse's heart thundering beneath you, and breathe in the sharp scent of fertile wild grasslands. You'll hear the quickening hoofbeats like a prelude to the age of information, though it lasted only 18 months before the telegraph took over. And finally, you'll press your ear to the keening wail of a violin, from crude early instruments to the masterpieces of Stradivari, realizing that amid every war, every monumental construction, every breakneck ride, there's always a delicate melody, the song of human hearts yearning to connect, to endure. As sleep washes over you, let those historical sounds cradle you, the fading footsteps of soldiers, the crackling laughter of cavalry mingling with the wind, your own steady breaths still echoing. You'll dream of mud-caked journeys, shoulders burdened with heavy shields, and a violin humming through a haze of glory. And so, from the warmth of your blanket, you've traveled through 1,000 years, and with a single breath, you're ready to dive into a dream. I'll meet you in the next chapter, where grit and humor will guide you through an unpolished history. For now, let go, unfurl your soul, and drift with the echoes of the past. Good night. You stir softly, feeling the chill still seeping through the tattered blanket. The night's dew lingers, clinging in tiny beads to the surface of your armor. You sit up, your feet meeting the damp, cold earth. A faint jolt, like a spark, courses through your heels, reminding you that you're alive, but in a harsh, unforgiving place. Around you, the gentle snoring of your comrades hums steadily, mingling with the rustle of wind through the leaves and the fading smoke of the dying fire. Faint orange embers cast a dim glow, just enough to help you locate your shield and helmet. The scene is strangely serene, as if the entire camp is holding its breath, listening to the pulse of the coming dawn. You hunch over, tugging the dew-soaked blanket to the ground, your eyes stinging as you inhale the sharp, cold air. The armor weighs heavily, pressing down on your shoulders. Each metal joint clinks softly, tink, tink, as if whispering, "Don't stay too quiet. Wake up." You struggle to stand, leaning forward to shake off a fleeting wave of dizziness. Your foot sinks into a small puddle of mud left from last night's rain. The slick black ooze clings to your boot, throwing you off balance for a few steps. You grip the wooden shield beside you, steadying yourself. In that moment, your fragmented sleep flashes back. A stiff back from lying on rocky ground, dreams of a warm hearth and children's laughter. Then you mutter to yourself, "Just a dream," and return to the wet, misty reality. You take a deep breath, trying to steady your rhythm until the world feels solid again. You hear the stomping of other soldiers waking, pulling back their blankets, clearing their throats, and chuckling wryly as they realize they slept in a muddy patch. A few quiet curses slip out, but they can't drown the diligent hum of preparing for the day. At the camp's edge, the embers flicker faintly. You step closer, extending trembling hands to catch the last wisps of warmth. A tin cup holds water mixed with ash and charcoal. You drink it down. The faint, burnt taste lingers in your throat, but the fleeting warmth is enough to coax a smile. Better than nothing, you tell yourself. Next, you laboriously unfasten each piece of armor to wipe away dirt and mud. As you peel off each plate, you recall last night when sweat and grime fused the metal to your tunic. Your hands tremble slightly, as if the steel is pushing back with a dull ache in your arms. But you know that if the armor isn't as clean as possible, a hail of arrows or a barrage of blows will find you more vulnerable. Behind you, your comrades murmur, one joking about playing both sides, swiping a stale hunk of bread from a neighbor's pack. But the bread is so hard it could crack stone, and no one really wants it. You let out a soft laugh, like a single drop rippling through the grim air. It's strange. Amid the mud and cold metal, that chuckle feels like a fleeting ray of sunlight. Finished with your armor, you reach for the leather flask of water. Yesterday's water is cloudy with sediment, glinting a dull brown. You grit your teeth and take a sip, the gritty taste scraping your throat. Then you glance up at the brightening sky, where gray clouds hint at weak sunlight. You wonder, will it rain? But the answer comes only from the chill in your fingertips. Perhaps in a few hours, rain and mud will be your constant companions. You slowly wrap a woolen scarf around your neck, trying to trap what little warmth remains. The scarf is thin, its stitches frayed, but it still blocks some of the wind. You study the damp spots on the fabric, remembering when you helped build the camp's barricades. Back then, you secretly wished for a dry tent. But now, you know you're fighting not just an enemy, but nature itself. A soft call breaks the quiet. Prepare to move. The commander's voice rises from the larger tent, patched together from old canvas. You draw a long breath, relaxing your shoulders to avoid slouching. Every movement now feels deliberate. You hoist your shield, drawing your sword from its sheath. The metal scrapes through the smoky air, a sound like a prelude to the march ahead. Before moving, you glance at your comrades' faces, bleary-eyed from sleep, yet glinting with resolve. You see the shared fear of cold, of rain, of wounds, of the chill piercing through flesh. But you also see determination. To stand, to grip a sword, to keep moving. Because if not you, then who? And so, you and your comrades rise, forming a ragged but earnest line. Not perfect, but disciplined. Each step clatters as metal meets metal, the sound echoing across the damp ground. Your heartbeat quickens, your chest tightening, a tense beginning, but one ripe with the chance to prove yourself. As you turn from the dying fire, you smile faintly. The quiet moments are gone, replaced by the resounding tread of boots. You tell yourself, today I'll wade through mud, push through fog, and step past fear to reach the battlefield. The armor may be heavy, the mud may cling to your ankles, but you press on. You're not just a soldier. You're a witness to history, and every step you take etches a moment of living fully. And so, the medieval soldier's morning isn't just cold and mud. It's an awakening, the start of challenges and stories you'll carry, so that listeners today can feel it clearly. History isn't dry facts, but breath, sweat, and a fleeting smile amid the mire. Above all, it's your story, tender yet brimming with emotion, gently lulling the hearts of modern dreamers to sleep. As you step across the damp field, the fog begins to lift, and the faint golden light of dawn breaks through the sky. It's a signal that the new day has truly begun, and every story, from hardship to humor, waits for you to tell. You drag your steps back to the dying fire, searching for a dry patch to sit. The morning wind bites, slipping through every crevice of your armor, making your bones ache as if they might freeze. Before you sits a thick-bottomed iron pot, still swirling with ashy smoke, holding only the crumbs of yesterday's meal. You pull a brittle, rock-hard loaf of bread from your pack, as unyielding as weathered wood. Your hands tremble as you snap off the first piece. The sharp crack echoes in the quiet. You bring it to your mouth, chewing slowly, forcing down each dry crumb. The bread tastes of scorched grain, stirring memories of warm mornings by your home's hearth, only to realize that those moments are a distant dream. Beneath your armor, your stomach roars for something to fill it. You take another bite of the bread, tempted to save it. But the howling wind and the clinging scent of mud in every breath won't let you stop. Hunger grows fierce, a nagging reminder. Eat now, or you'll collapse on the trail. You dig out a strip of long-dried meat, its dark brown surface tough and carrying a faint, sour tang. Biting into it, your teeth grind with effort. It's not quite spoiled, but far from fresh, a gift from nature gone stale in the deep woods. You close your eyes for a second, bracing yourself, then swallow quickly. When hunger gnaws, taste becomes forgiving. No matter how strange, it's better than the screaming void in your gut. Nearby, another soldier wrestles with his own loaf. You catch his gaze, a mix of reluctance and stubborn resolve. His lips twist as he bites, then he sucks in a sharp breath. You hide a smile, wondering, am I the only one, or are we all proving something by eating what shouldn't be eaten? A murky tin cup sits beside you, filled with a mix of stagnant puddle water and charcoal ash. You lift it, staring at the inky surface, then set it down. No one's forcing you to drink it all. Spring's last snowflakes are clearer than this. You sigh, glancing around. Your comrades are running low on food. A few quietly pull out flasks of crude, homemade liquor. Harsh, reeking of raw alcohol. Just then, a grunt of liquor-soaked breath cuts through. You glance at the man beside you. He smirks, his eyes glinting with bitter humor. Maybe we'll stay sharper, you mutter to yourself, reaching for the small flask you carried from yesterday. The alcohol burns your nose, but warmth spreads down your throat instantly. You take another sip, and the morning feels a touch less cold. After draining the flask, you set it down, your gaze drifting to the misty forest. The sound of hurried footsteps signals the march drawing near. But before moving, you tend to your body. You look at the muddy patch before you, once a still puddle last night, now speckled with early dew and thick sludge. Without hesitation, you shake the mud from your hands and lean toward the puddle. You scoop up a handful of icy water, splashing it hard against your face. Droplets scatter, mixed with black grime, carrying a sharp, cool scent. You shudder, your skin prickling with the chill. But you close your eyes just in time, keeping the dirt and ash from stinging. A few other soldiers seize the moment to clean, trading jabs with hushed chuckles and curses. "Nightmare scholar? Got the guts to splash your thighs yet?" The teasing amid the freezing cold reminds you that, despite the hardship, laughter can still ring out. You laugh too, though your lips are cracked and dry, the sound steadies your blood. Done washing, you rub your face, trying to coax warmth back into your skin. But the cold water clings around your eyes and ears. You slowly massage your cheeks, feeling the droplets slide down your neck. The armor grazes lightly, metal clinking softly, tink, tink, like the final stone in the morning's rough symphony. You return to the fire, setting down the empty flask and carefully stacking the pot and pan. The last crackle of the flames spits out a few tiny sparks. You feel just enough heat to dry the water lingering on your armor. You wave your hand through the warmth, inhaling the dusty ash, then share a glance with your comrades. Your eyes say it all. We're done. Today, we're ready. The morning breeze rustles through the leaves, a quiet soundtrack to this humble scene. No one praises your cleanliness or hails your lavish breakfast. Instead, everyone grips their swords, hoists shields onto shoulders, their eyes resolute, sparkling despite the fatigue and faint excitement. You step beyond the camp's edge, mud still clinging to your boots, but your heart feels light. You've just completed a morning ritual. No fanfare, no glory, just you, your comrades, and survival. The crumbled bread, tough meat, warm liquor, and muddy water were the rites for a fragile fight. As you and the ragged column begin the march, you tell yourself, you may never recall the exact taste of this morning's meal, but you won't forget the comrades' smiles after that brutal wash. You won't forget the mud streaked across faces, armor, and heels, the first marks of a long day ahead. And though it was just a hasty sip of liquor, it's a symbol of warmth amid the storm. You lift your head, following the faint glow of dawn through the pale gray sky. You know the battlefield lies ahead, where the humor and fleeting warmth of this moment will steel you for what's to come. And so, after a meager breakfast and a freezing wash, you, the medieval soldier, press on. Your heart warms just a little, fear giving way to resolve. You're ready to face the mud, to endure a rain of arrows, to witness the chaos before you. But at least, you've got enough strength for the next step. You nudge your shoulder against the shield, positioning it across your chest like an invisible barrier against the weight of your helmet and the morning dew still clinging to your back. Wet mud smears your heels, and with each step, you lift your feet a little higher to avoid the slimy puddles waiting to swallow your leather boots. The steady clink, clink of metal on metal rings out, a rhythmic drumbeat heralding an endless journey. Your legs ache, each ankle joint stabbed by 1,000 invisible needles. Every heel strike sends a faint jolt up your knees, hips, and into the marrow of your bones. You try to focus on your breathing. Inhale, slow and steady. Exhale, soft and deliberate. But the frigid air constricts your lungs, and you realize this isn't a warm room breathing exercise. This is the breath of survival. Beside you, your comrades trudge with weary steps. A sharp grumble cuts through. "My feet are killing me." The voice drips with complaint, but no one pauses to sympathize. The only reason medieval soldiers don't give up is the fear of punishment far greater than physical pain. Drenched in mud, you catch a faint reflection of the gray sky in a puddle's surface. Each pool is a tiny mirror revealing a bleak tableau of drizzle, ash, and mire. You trace that image, reminding yourself that no matter how far the road stretches, the ground remains beneath your feet. You stomp hard, crushing the mud, sending a message. "I'm still here." The sound of the marching army grows steady, a chorus of exhausted footsteps. Someone hums softly, clinging to morale. Another blows a crude tin whistle, its faint notes weaving into the wind. You listen, seeking those fleeting melodies, for even in fatigue, a soldier craves a spark of life. A light rain begins. Droplets mixed with mist fall gently onto your shoulders, sliding down your neck and seeping through the joints of your armor. It feels like countless tiny needles pricking your skin, but you don't stop. You march on, step by step, as if each one is a vow to hold your spirit firm. Your gaze fixes ahead, where shadowy cavalry figures loom through the rain. The clopping of hooves churns mud, splattering white flecks across the black earth. It's not just their speed that's daunting. It's the sense that you can't escape. The sight is both majestic and terrifying. Your shoulders grow heavier, not just from the armor and shield, but from the thoughts creeping in. You wonder, am I strong enough? Part of you yearns for victory, part for survival. But deeper still, you recall the lingering taste of family meals, the warm glow of a fire in a simple tent. You know each step forward is a note in a melody of sweet memories, keeping your heart from sinking into hopeless darkness. The footsteps grow louder. The rain eases, revealing fresh ruts of mud. You slam your foot into the earth, leaving a deep imprint. Your leather boots are fraying, mud oozing through the seams, creeping between the cloth wrapping your feet. Each time you scrape the muck off with your heel, you tell yourself, just keep moving. It'll be all right. Slowly, the army nears rolling hills, where cold winds push clouds racing overhead. You flex your feet, bracing for the slopes ahead. Your legs feel as if they're bending under strain, flooded with exhaustion. But as you glance up at the briefly clearing sky, a faint ray of sunlight pierces the gray, a reminder to press on, to find light amid the chaos. Your comrades begin propping spears against their shoulders, forming a tight barrier. The long spears rise, their tips slick with rain and mud. You shift your shoulder, taking up your own spear, the cold metal sending a chill through your arm. You say nothing, only nod faintly, ignoring the silent crowd beside you. The hoofbeats draw closer. You hear the wind tearing through water and mud, the rapid breaths of the cavalry. This isn't music. It's a warning of the clash to come. You take a sip of the warm water left in your leather flask, the metallic tang coating your throat, then lift your head, staring into the void ahead. Your heart pounds. Thundering. You feel its rhythm surge, like a war drum echoing. Sweat mingles with rain on your forehead and temples, blurring your vision as mud-streaked droplets fall. Each bead of sweat is proof of your readiness. As the final hill falls away, you stand before an open field, the battlefield awaiting. Mud flows in patches, littered with broken branches and remnants of prior conflicts. You hear the clash of metal on metal, distant warrior cries, and the faint smoky scent of fire cords. You steady your stance, hands gripping the spear's shaft, feet shoulder-width apart, poised on the edge of life and death. Your armor and shield are the only barriers against the chaos beyond. You're no longer an ordinary man. You're part of the fight, your heartbeat synchronized with the drums and hoofbeats. Your mind dissolves into that moment. All fatigue, cold, and regret converge into a single point. The march has become a confrontation. You draw the deepest breath. The sounds around you seem to hush, and take your first step onto the battlefield, opening the next chapter of a medieval soldier's life. And so, marching through the mire isn't just a physical journey. It's a quest of will, an inner odyssey where you wrestle with fear, resolve, and the warm memories of a home left behind. Each step through a puddle, each ragged breath, each clank of metal. Together, they write your story, a cadence only the soul of war can narrate. The battlefield lies before you. You're ready to continue, feet caked in mud, heart brimming with resolve, and soul poised like a storyteller, transforming each harrowing moment into a smooth memory for the dreams of future generations. You halt after the grueling march, gently lowering your weapon sack onto the thick, clinging mud. The wet leather of your boots squeaks with a gritty crunch, dragging clumps of damp earth across the spear's shaft. Before you sprawls a ramshackle battle camp, stripping away any illusions of glory. Tattered canvas tents sagging on creaking wooden frames, sunken patches of ground pooling with ankle-deep water, and a chaotic web of ropes crisscrossing the camp like a giant spider's snare. You slump onto a makeshift stone seat, feeling the dull ache of your muscles. Your throat is parched, rough as the frayed cloth inside your helmet. You crave a sip, but the water in your leather flask ran dry this morning. Instead, you draw a deep breath, trying to capture every lingering particle of air. The scent of wet mud, charcoal ash, and sweat mingles, clinging to your skin, jolting your senses awake. The air around you is heavy, almost suffocating. From a corner of the camp, the murmur of prayers rises, faint and wavering like a stream flickering in and out of view. A few soldiers kneel before a wooden cross, their gazes lifted skyward, exhaling soft sighs as their lips whisper pleas for divine protection. The sound blends with the gentle whistle of the wind, weaving a haunting, spine-chilling refrain. Amid this, The low rumble of steel on steel echoes. You watch your comrades rise, their hands deftly sharpening blades, the whetstone etched with worn grooves. The hiss of metal against stone spits out glinting sparks. Some wipe dried mud from their shields, polishing the wooden edges smooth. Each motion is simple but deliberate, as if channeling their fears into the heart of the steel. You suddenly recall the fleeting warmth by the dying fire. Now, as you step closer, only a few unburnt logs remain, radiating a feeble heat. Your trembling hands grasp your sword, the cold metal sending a shiver through you. You turn the blade slowly, listening to the faint scrape of steel, then prop it against a rickety wooden post near the commander's tent. Inside, the commander stands with a steely gaze. He spreads a tattered map, muttering calculations. The tent's warmth doesn't reach outside, so when you extend a hand for water, he only nods, his eyes still taut with worry. Every small movement betrays his tension. Furrowed brows, deep forehead creases, and a long, heavy breath. You wipe sweat with a rag, brushing it across your brow. Mud caked around your armor's neckpiece demands extra effort to scrape away. At times, you hear the pop of dried mud breaking free, followed by a soft shudder, a faint vibration from the armor's joints. You wonder, will this armor withstand its first scratch? The piercing call of a war drum cuts through, signaling the end of preparations. You stand tall, adjusting your belt straps, ensuring everything is secure. You feel your comrades' eyes on you, each face a mix of fear and resolve. Some bite their lips, others close their eyes, praying in silence. You tune into the breathing around you, feeling like a small link in a vast machine. The chieftains begin barking orders. The hoarse cry of "Ready" rings out. Those sharpening blades set their tools aside, wipe their hands, and grip their weapon hilts. You join them, stepping out of the camp as the dim morning light filters through a thin veil of smoke, highlighting every mud streak on the ground. The drumbeat grows urgent. The soldiers form silent ranks. You hear boots squelching in mud, armor rustling, and labored breaths. Your hands rest on the spear's shaft, feeling the wood's faint tremor. Your palms warm slightly from your body's heat. Before leaving the camp, you glance back at the slanting tents, the broken cross, the smoldering logs. Everything bears the scars of a long, anxious night. You tell yourself, from here, there's no turning back. Finally, you and your comrades veer toward the wide, open meadow beyond the camp. Each step feels heavy, but sadness no longer grips you. Instead, a faint thrill stirs within, like the first sword slash shattering the silence, heralding an epic anthem. As sunlight pierces the treetops, you see the glint of your comrade's armor, flashes of light reflecting off the mud. The wind grazes the field, carrying the scent of wet grass, mingled with sweat and fading smoke. You breathe deeply, etching that smell into memory. For this is the scent of battle. Your heart swells with resolve. Part 4. March to the battlefield. Blended exhaustion and fear, yet planted seeds of hope for moments of triumph. Now, Part 5. The battle camp and preparation proves that before swords clash, warriors need their rituals to refill empty flasks, clean weapons, tend armor, and even pray. In the quiet moments amid clanging metal and soft pleas, you realize war is not just action, but mindset. It begins with preparation, with each bead of sweat on your brow, each prayer in the canvas tent, each strike of whetstone on blade. You and the army tread the muddy path, crossing the camp's boundary. The drumbeat thunders, binding every step, breath, and heartbeat. Soiled banners flutter, the wind carrying the promise of an unavoidable fight. In that moment, you know, Parts 4 and 5 have merged to mark a turning point. From the weary march to the camp's preparations, from fleeting chaos to emerging order, you're ready to face what lies ahead. In the Bedtime History series, the next chapter will unveil shattered castle gates and a faceless drama of life and death. But for now, catch your breath, gather your weapons, and let your mind cling to the drum's rhythm. For the decisive moment draws near. Your heart skips a beat as the commander's tent flap stirs, signaling the start of something momentous. The grinding of swords and murmurs of prayer fall silent. A heavy stillness settles, broken only by the labored breaths of the warriors. The air feels charged, poised for a jolt to shatter the tension. The commander steps into the camp's center, his armor gleaming under the weak sunlight, not a speck of mud marring its surface. He radiates authority, standing firm like a flagpole in a storm. The faint clatter of distant hooves hums softly, a prelude to an imagined triumph. He raises his hand, his deep voice booming through the smoke-laden air. "Brave warriors!" His words make the space itself tremble. Each syllable is a note in a soaring anthem, awakening every sense, filling the hollow ache in your chest. His rallying cry begins slowly. He speaks of honor, of shields that protect, of glory awaiting beyond. Each sentence is measured, lingering so you catch the echo of its final words. His voice isn't forced. It resonates like a chorus, inviting you into a grand, heroic saga. Yet deep within, your heartbeat weaves with doubt. You recall the long night of prayers, the smell of ash, the faint laments from the camp's corners. You picture weary faces, hollow eyes gazing upward. The fear isn't just of battlefield pain, it's of the commander's wrath should anyone turn and flee. His tone shifts, rising sharply as he recounts victories etched in golden sands, swords cleaving the night, a king smiling upon a returning army. The imagery, though vivid, feels like a mirage crafted by his commanding voice. You nod, lips pressed tight, trying to muster a spark of false zeal. Your eyes dart across your comrades. They stand shoulder to shoulder, their mud-caked armor rough, yet they strive to appear resolute. Some grip their sword hilts, faces grim, channeling tremors into defiance. Others close their eyes briefly, offering silent pleas in place of cheers. The commander's voice presses on, a sledgehammer striking at the soldiers' hearts. Today, we will forge history. You can't help but purse your lips. Part of you longs to believe, to trust that beyond the mud and ice lies a glorious victory. But another part whispers, if I fall to my knees, will I be spared? That fleeting question startles you. You scold yourself. Now's not the time for that. Yet the truth lingers. Fear of punishment burns hotter than any flame of fervor. You wonder if you'd stand here at all without the dread of reprimand, of lost rewards, or being forced to march on despite exhaustion. The commander pauses, his gaze sweeping the ranks. A faint smile softens his face as his tone turns gentler. But above all, he says, I believe in you. Every wound will forge strength. Every fear will become pride. His words ignite a spark in your chest, however small. In the hushed moment before he raises his hand to end the speech, you glance at your mud-crusted boots. You realize that, though glory may be distant, the mire on your soles is proof of a soldier's resolve. You decide, if you have nothing left to lose, at least let it be your fear. His final words ring out. March forward, for history awaits. The shout is a blade slicing through the silence. Your eyes flare with sudden light. Warmth spreads from your spine to your trembling fingertips. You share a glance with your comrades, a silent vow. We go on together. You draw a long breath, steadying your stance. Beneath the gleaming armor, your heart surges. You hear the rain of arrows pelting the camp's gates, the clash of iron on iron warning. The hour has come. The speech ends, but its echo lingers. You smile faintly, not for the lofty praise, but for the bond with those standing beside you. You know that, no matter who speaks, the final choice rests with your own feet. Part 6 is complete. From the camp's preparations, you step toward battle with a heart both trembling and exhilarated. The fear of punishment outweighs zeal, yet that very fear propels you forward, drives your mud-streaked sword, and kindles a dream of victory amid the battlefield's fog. Now, you're ready. Just a few steps more, and the true fight begins. May you hold fast to your resolve and savor each beat of the story's soul. You steel your face, drawing a slow breath, trying to gather every fragment of your mind into the present moment. The mix of dread and exhilaration from the commander's stirring speech still lingers, lofty and resonant. The sharp beat of the war drum cuts through, hammering your chest, signaling the critical moment, forming the ranks. You turn to your comrades. They stand close, their heights uneven, armor streaked with mud, yet each strives for composure. Their eyes glint with a mix of tension and buried humor. You realize you're not alone in your trembling, but you also see resolve, despite the weight on their shoulders. Before you lies the uneven camp courtyard, littered with torn canvas and jagged stones. Dried mud clumps crackle under your boots, a reminder that no perfect formation will emerge here. You wonder if ancient Roman soldiers endured this too, or if that's just Hollywood's gloss. Your hand brushes the sword's hilt. The blade is no romantic hero's weapon. It's a dull, tarnished hunk of metal, its edge still crusted with dried blood. You grip the hilt firmly, hoping to align it for the moment when the ranks raise their swords in unison, creating a unified front. But the sword wobbles, nearly slipping from your grasp. Beside you, a soldier fumbles, holding his spear upside down. His hands freeze, wrist wobbling, eyes darting toward the commander. He corrects it, only to drop his helmet with a loud clank, followed by a heavy sigh. You stifle irritation, not daring to laugh. The moment, drenched in sweat, reminds you that war is no parade rehearsal. You strive to keep your mind steady. Your eyes scan the ranks. Some clasp their hands. Others press palms to their chests, as if summoning courage. You notice old scars on cheeks, scratches on arms beneath worn armor. Each mark tells a story of survival through past perils. The commander's voice booms. "Form up, one by one." It's stern, yet tinged with wry humor as he scratches a line in the dirt with a stick. That simple mark becomes the measure of order. You align your helmet to neither rise above nor dip below it. But the mud clings, slick under your boots, nearly sending you skidding. A bead of sweat rolls down your nose, grazing your tunic. The faint afternoon sun slants across the ground, draping you in a fragile veil of golden light. In that instant, you notice delicate details, the loose strap of your armor, the breeze whispering through, the soft clink of shields brushing together. It's a moment both precarious and thrilling, the first gathering of the ranks. You inhale, squaring your shoulders. They ache, but you force your spine straight. A warmth spreads through your bones, as if resolve is forging into physical strength. You blink, pushing away the smirk from watching the clumsy helmet drop. Now is the time for focus. The commander watches from above, eyes narrowed. His nod of approval will signal the army's readiness to march. Your pulse races, each beat a war drum's echo. Your heart trembles yet surges. You know these ranks will join you in battle, sharing both fear and hope. Just before the decisive moment, you glance at the comrade to your right. Your eyes meet, a faint smile flickering at the corner of their lips. You realize, amid the mud and sweat, amid the initial chaos, a seed of camaraderie endures. These are your brothers, those who won't let you fall alone. At last, the drum roars with urgency. You and your comrades raise your swords in unison, forming a jagged wall of steel in the fading light. The armor glints faintly, reflecting every dent, scratch, and smear of mud. It's a moment of transition. From rough chaos, from the scattered scrape of whetstones, you forge the image of a united army. You bow your head slightly, a quiet smile to yourself. You've completed the forming of the ranks, imperfect but raw. Though not stepping forth like a Roman legion from the silver screen, you've shaped a formation with its own mark, built from resolve, fear, silent humor, and above all, a shared soul, the soul of medieval soldiers stepping into battle. The moment closes with a hush before the army strides forward as one. You gaze toward the ruined castle gate, where hoofbeats and war drums await. You know, from this flawed formation, the next steps will weave a greater tale, a story to stir your heart with every beat and lull you to sleep with echoes of ancient battlefields. You have no time to think as the first boom crashes like a death knell. Arrows streak through the air, carving harsh streaks across the gray sky. You duck instinctively, your heavy shield slamming into the ground with a steely force, the sharp clang echoing dryly. A jarring vibration surges through your arm, deep into your chest, reminding you that each breath held after an arrow's strike is a breath of survival. You press your shoulder against the wooden shield, your only true ally now. Through a narrow gap above, you glimpse arrows whistling down, splintering on shields or piercing the earth, leaving tiny, web-like cracks. Each fracture tells a story of countless lives spared at the last second. Around you, your comrades huddle behind their shields. They stand shoulder to shoulder, forming a wall. The clink of metal rings out as they adjust armor straps, angling shields to block. Some tremble, but none let go. Everyone knows a cracked shield, even a hairline fracture, could turn an arrow into a fatal bullet. The arrows keep coming. A torrent of them rains down like a flood, each one thudding into the ground or piercing armor padding. You breathe deeply, struggling to stay sharp. Each inhale and exhale is deliberate, timed to catch every hint of the chaos. The air becomes a battlefield of sound, the thunk of wood pierced, the clatter of metal on metal, and the muffled squelch of mud beneath your feet. You glance up briefly, the massive wooden shield filling your view. Above, arrows rattle, kicking up clouds of ash and mud. Each time you brace the shield upright, your arms strain to the point of numbness, as if you're pouring every ounce of strength into keeping your heart from shattering. In a fleeting moment of quiet between volleys, you hear your comrades' breaths. They inhale, exhale, a faint symphony, proof you're not alone. Each one keeps rhythm, forging an unbreakable bond. No one lets the arrow's chaos sever that connection. The mud beneath is slick, pocked with small craters from arrow strikes. Half the arrows lie spent, their wooden shafts splintered, iron tips caked with muck. Dried bloodstains mingle with the black ooze of mud. The scene isn't one of violent horror, but of raw, brutal honesty, stirring a deep sadness rather than fear. Steadying yourself, you unconsciously tighten your grip on the shield. Sweat drips from your wrist, mixing with the mud on your gauntlet. You mutter a silent mantra. Just hold fast. Just hold fast. You know every second you delay, even by a fraction, could decide the survival of the entire line. The commander's voice thunders. "Secure the left flank. Hold firm." Footsteps pound. Sharp shouts urge action. The comrade to your left pivots, shielding a newly exposed gap. You lean in, keeping the wall of shields unbroken. It's a clumsy dance, urgent and precise, breathtaking in its intensity. Beneath the mud, an old wound on your leg throbs. Dried blood from a prior fall still seeps faintly. Each flex to brace against arrows sends a sharp pang through the scar, but you refuse to let pain slow you. Your duty weighs heavier. Protect the man beside you. Ensure enemy arrows hit dirt, not flesh. The arrow storm eases slightly. You hear a whoosh. An arrow grazes the shield's edge, ricocheting aside. Instantly, You press closer, shoulders rigid as steel. The near miss spikes your pulse. The enemy has shifted their aim, probing for weaknesses in your defense. Recognizing their tactic, you brace harder, planting your feet firmly in the mud to reset your stance. The sludge resists, as if trying to drag you down. But you keep your legs nimble, moving like a dancer in a hail of arrows. In that split second, you see a comrade raise his sword high, letting out a long, defiant roar. It's as if he's proclaiming, "Arrows may rain, but I can still swing." A fleeting, proud grin flashes across his face. You smile faintly, lips cracked and dry, sharing a moment of humor amid the brink of death. Finally, a commanding shout rings out. "Shift formation! Advance!" It's the signal to turn defense into attack. You lower your shield into the muck, drawing your sword, your body still trembling with tension. Your arms ache, legs throb, back pulsing with adrenaline and exhaustion. You grip the sword's hilt, eyes fixed forward. The ranks behind you shift, forming a solid wedge. You tell yourself, just move forward, stay steady. As your foot stamps the earth again, you know the real battle has begun. The arrow rain and defense chapter closes in this moment of transition, where you turn fear into fuel, your mud-streaked shield into a personal fortress, and each ragged breath into a battle hymn. The distant drums still echo, now blending with your heartbeat, the pulse of a medieval soldier ready to face fate. As you prepare to loose your first arrow in return, let the story's soul guide you, turning each step, each swing, into a note in a symphony of mud and survival. Sleep is still far off, but the journey has turned to the next chapter, melee chaos, waiting for you to explore. May you dream of battlefields, but also of your own resilience. You raise your sword, hands trembling from exhaustion and pent-up pressure. Your breaths are still ragged from the arrow storm, but now the dominant sound is the squelch beneath your feet. The metallic tang of blood mingles with black mud, slick and viscous, each step like treading through a mire of your own and your comrades' making. Your swings lack the elegance of heroic tales. Your arm slashes wildly, a desperate bid for survival. Around you, the chaos is a colossal meat grinder, churning flesh and spirit alike. To your left, a comrade whips his sword across his body, twisting to dodge a vicious slash, then counters with a clumsy hack. You catch a glimpse of his wooden shield. A long gash splinters its surface, a stark reminder that nothing is inviolable. An enemy soldier leaps forward, his tattooed arm taut, eyes razor-sharp. He swings a broad cut at your chest. You jerk your sword upward, then down to meet his blade. The clash rings out, a jarring clang that shakes your right shoulder. You hear teeth grinding, yours or his, you're not sure, and amid the frenzy, a fleeting wry thought sparks. This fight's not for anyone dreaming of graceful swordplay. Blood splatters your cheek, mingling with salty sweat. The iron-bitter sting of it burns your eyes, blurring your vision. You blink rapidly, fighting to keep your sight clear. Then you realize you're standing in a thin pool of blood, still warm from a body that just fell. The acrid scent of smoke and the thick, cloying reek of blood flood your senses, every nerve on edge. You pivot, sidestepping a fallen comrade, your sword grazing an enemy's armor. The blade scrapes their waxed sleeve, fraying the fabric. These aren't precise strikes, but frantic sketches in the chaos. You lunge forward, slamming your elbow into an enemy's face. Blood-flecked spittle sprays, dotting the mud like crimson pearls. Your ragged breaths blend with the deafening shouts around you. Cries of "Argh!" or "Ha!" mix with the sickening thud of metal meeting flesh. Each sound is a war drum, urging you not to stop. You clutch the sword's hilt, hands numb and taut, feeling as if they might shatter under the strain. You stumble, your foot slipping in a slick of mud. Your sword veers, nearly striking a comrade. You catch yourself, stepping back, weaving past another body, a young soldier who fell after plunging his blade into an enemy's back. The sight twists your heart, a quiet sorrow piercing through. But there's no time to grieve. To pause is to die, and you refuse to stay here forever. Amid the whirlwind of steel, a comrade's sharp laugh cuts through, startlingly crisp. He parries a blow and yells, "Watch out! These bastards are nothing but trouble." That fleeting chuckle, however small, jolts you with a sense of life. You let out a choked laugh, emotions tangled, and swing your sword again. Sweat and blood drip from your brow, streaking your cheeks. Your throat burns with thirst, but you don't dare stop for water. A single lapse could invite a strike from behind. You breathe in gasps, your heart pounding as if it might burst. Another enemy charges, thrusting a long spear. You spin, blocking just below your right shoulder. The impact sparks faint glints of metal despite the drizzle. You feel the spear graze your armor, scraping an old crack. A second later, it recoils, tumbling into the mud. You surge forward, shoving the spear aside. Your sword is no longer a weapon, but a third leg, a third hand. Each swing, each parry flows not from training, but from raw instinct. You think of the stale breakfast, the frigid wash, the arrow rain just endured. This war is distilled in every bead of sweat, every hoarse cry, every bloodstain on your blade. You vault over a body, leaping to dodge a horizontal slash. With a smirk, you mutter, "Like exercising with death." Those clumsy jumps save you from a sluggish cleave. Your heart lurches, then settles as your feet hit the ground. You weave, slash, and pull your sword back. The blade traces an arc caked with black mud, dripping in slow clots. Each drop is like a piece of your armor peeling away, yet it clings, tethering you to the fight. Your breathing steadies, bolstered by brief, deep inhales amid the chaos. You picture a warm hearth, your wooden shield as your closest friend. Then shift to your comrades, those navigating this mire of flesh and mud beside you. You send them a silent vow. Keep going, and we'll survive. A piercing drum roll erupts, signaling the end of the melee. You halt your final swing, looking up to see the enemy retreating. Shouts of victory fade into the distance. You slump your shoulders, letting the sword dangle. You draw a deep, unshackled breath, as if it's the first in ages. Sweat and blood still cling, but your eyes flicker with reluctant pride. Despite the brutality, you've survived a storm of chaos, and more trials lie ahead. As you stand in the thick mud, unbowed, your heartbeat slowing to a steady rhythm, remember this melee chaos, where war is no elegant dance but a frantic clash of life and death. Rest easy in your sleep, with echoes of swinging blades, ringing shouts, and the hidden strength in a warrior's heart. You stand amid a sea of chaos, where every sound seems to hold its breath before erupting. Your eyes are wide, your chest tight, as if each heartbeat might burst free. Before you, a warrior collapses, his helmet rolling into the mud like a tolling bell. Echoes of shouts fill the air, hoarse cries from comrades, groans from foes, and frantic calls for loved ones in their final moments. The clash of metal on metal screams, each strike not just an act, but a defiant declaration. You hear the clink of sword against shield, then the sharp crack of a spear piercing armored ribs. These aren't the majestic chords of a noble symphony, but the sledgehammer shattering all illusions. The vibrations ripple through your flesh beneath the armor, echoing in your ears, your heart, urging you to clench your fists against the dizzying onslaught. The stench of sweat and blood assaults your nose, a pungent mix so thick you can almost taste the damp clinging to your armor. It's sharp, a reminder of life's fragility being crushed. You shift, trying to draw air, but only the iron tang of blood coats your tongue, a warning that any moment could be your last. In the midst of the turmoil, you blink. For a fleeting second, you imagine a faint melody, a violin's hum carried on the wind, a soft drum beat beckoning to a dreamlike haze. But the illusion is swallowed by the violent tremor of charging hooves. The rhythmic thud of horses resounds like war drums, reverberating through barriers of flesh and steel. You force yourself to stand tall, leaning on your sword's hilt for balance, resisting the pull of the cavalry's thunder. As they charge, hooves churn the wet earth, mud splattering your face. The sound is so powerful you feel it pulse through your toes, up your calves, and along your spine. A shout echoes again, bouncing off distant cliffs as if reaching across eternity. You see enemies roar, hurling down swords only to snatch them up, blazing with fervor. Each bellow is a dark abyss, burying hope and fear alike. Here, men are no longer the naive souls who knelt in camp at night, but ruthless machines, ready to tear their foes apart. You wonder, is it the sound I fear most? But fear doesn't mean refusing to move. Even in this madness, something strange and haunting grips you. Life clings to you, forcing your eyes to stay open. You hear a helmet clatter face down in the mud, the labored panting of a fallen comrade. Loudest of all is the sound of you, your brothers, your army, living this very moment. The stamp of hooves blends with screams, weaving a chaotic symphony. You listen for signals, sounds to gauge the attack's direction, to know your comrades still breathe, to confirm you still exist. Amid the cacophony, the drums in your chest pound, urging focus, demanding you don't fall. You brace the line, stepping back to dodge a vicious spear thrust. Your shield clips your elbow, ringing with a sharp clang, as if asking, "Can you take this hit?" You nod faintly, muttering, "Absolutely." It's not just resolve. It's a vow to the body enduring this sonic earthquake. Your ear catches a comrade's ragged breathing, his lungs stifling pain. A gash slices his side, yet he stands, gripping his sword. The sound is choked but proud. "I won't fall." You glance at him, then forward to the fray, where the din surges like crashing waves. You discern subtle shifts in the soundscape, the whisper of wind through armor gaps, the scrape of leather boots slipping in mud, the low clunk of iron plates colliding. These raw notes could make you forget the horror, revealing the oddly mundane amid the chaos. A brief pause, then a jarring trumpet blares, heralding a new charge. You feel faint tremors rise from the earth, as if the battlefield's heart races with the rallying drums. The trumpet's note is warped, not the clear fanfare of history books, but a hoarse, lonely cry, laced with dirt and blood. As the trumpet fades, a shout of "Forward!" reverberates across the abyss. All sounds hush, save the pounding of boots and the shing of drawn blades. You hear your own sword slide free, its metal scraping the iron sheath, a prelude to the next clash. You breathe deeply, striving for steady rhythm. Then you step forward, merging with the battle's melody. You're ready for whatever sound comes next, be it a cry of defeat, a cheer of victory, or an endless echo across the ravaged land. For only by fully hearing these sounds do you truly grasp the value of life and of yourself. The sounds of battle. Chapter closes as you take your first step on ground baptized by countless chaotic notes. You're no longer just a soldier. You're a witness to a blood-soaked symphony where every sound etches itself into memory, becoming a tale whispered in the dark, lulling another generation to sleep. You kneel in the aftermath of chaos, your chest still heaving with the frantic breaths of sounds of battle. Sweat and blood mingle on your cheeks, dripping silently onto the slick mud. Suddenly, a faint clink sounds behind you, distinct from the surrounding clamor. It's an eerie pause in the chaotic symphony, making your heart lurch once more. You turn, but it's too late. Your closest comrade, who moments ago dodged an arrow with you, now lies face down in a cold pool of blood. His hand twitches, then stiffens. A trident's deep gash pierces his iron-clad back, blood blooming like wilted petals under fading sunlight. You freeze. In an instant, the raw pandemonium of battle dissolves into a chilling silence. No rallying cries, no triumphant horns, only a suffocating stillness, like a black curtain smothering all sound. You hear yourself draw a deep, dazed breath, as if clinging to the last wisps of air. Your hand reaches out, brushing the mud and blood-streaked armor. It's ice cold. A jolt sears your skin, your fingers purpling from the chill and shock. You watch the blood spread, pooling wearily in the slick mud. This same blood once flecked your sword, sprayed when you parried blows. Now, It rests quietly on the earth, a silent elegy marking an abrupt end. You recall moments ago the shouts, the cry to advance, the horrific pools of gore. But here, there's no glory, only the absence of a life extinguished. You kneel closer, your eyes level with his. His lips are parted, as if poised to speak a final word, but only a faint, frosty breath escapes. You place a hand on his chest, but in the next heartbeat, you know, no pulse remains. His heart is still. The silence grows denser, heavier. The battle rages on around you. Swords slice the air, hooves thunder, and enemy screams echo like demonic wails. But at your ear, the silence of death roars loudest. It drapes you in a leaden shroud, reminding you how fragile life is. You lift your head, eyes blurred with tears and sweat. Ahead, the defensive line holds firm against another arrow barrage. They're unaware their brother has fallen. You stand caught between worlds, one of battle's chaos, the other a silent abyss for a lost soul. A tremor ripples through you. Sweat and blood glue your clothes to your skin, tacky and binding. Your hands grip the sword's hilt, itching to rejoin the fight to escape this helplessness. But you know leaving your post would expose a gap in the line. You remain rooted, heart leaden. 1 second passes, then 2, 3. You grasp the brevity of that moment, the swiftness of time when death strikes. You wonder if a single second could have turned back that fatal arrow. The answer is always no. War spares no room for regret. You exhale shakily, seeking calm. You breathe in, out, willing the stench of blood and mud not to crush you. You lean over, gently brushing clumps of mud from his body. Your fingers trace the heavy armor, wiping blood along the collar's edge, as if to keep his face from sinking into the mire. You rub softly, as if touching a final relic. A cold tear rolls down your cheek. You don't sob aloud. You let your eyes brim, the weight spreading through you. The drums and cries of battle persist, relentless. War allows no pause, dragging you from grief with cruel force. You swallow a pained breath, the ache clawing your throat. Slowly, you rise, shoulders trembling but steadying the sword's hilt. You steal one last look at him, his eyes now dim. This is a farewell without fanfare, a candle snuffed in a gale, a sudden death, unsung, marked only by mute silence for a life gone. You step back toward the ranks, bowing your head in eternal parting. Your shoulders shake, your heart twists, but your feet hold firm for the task ahead. The commander's order echoes. Hold the line, stand fast. In that moment, you grip the sword, whispering to yourself, you won't have died in vain. You turn, your gaze hardening. You see the defensive line beside you, swaying amid mud and arrow smoke. But in their eyes, a new spark glints, the star of resolve. You realize your comrade's sudden death though shattering, has kindled a fire of survival within you. That flame burns hot enough to keep fighting, warm enough to carry his shadow with every step forward. As you advance, merging with the booming drums, you carry a soft sigh. You bear both profound sorrow and faint hope. You hold the memory of that sudden death, not to drown in it, but to spur you to live each moment fully. The war awaits. You're ready for what comes next, until the mission ends, and you return to a warm hearth, whispering this tale gently to lull future generations to sleep. The thunder of cavalry hooves closes in fast, like relentless drums heralding a storm that tilts the sky. You hear the slosh of hooves churning through mud, a sound both powerful and menacing. Each impact jolts your heart. Then the horses emerge, massive forms slicing through thin fog, saddles and reins glinting silver, trailing wisps of ashen smoke. The lead knight charges straight at you, his long lance slicing the air. His posture is rigid, back arched neatly, cloak fluttering, a fleeting image of chivalry that dissolves in the chaos. One swing of his lance fells a comrade beside you, the panicked horse trampling the body, hurling it skyward before it crashes into a black pool of blood. You drop to your knees, pressing yourself to the ground. Your heart seems to stop in that dramatic instant. If you hadn't ducked, those charging hooves would have crushed you like an insect. Mud splatters your back, its wet stench flooding your nose. The scene paints peak chaos, a brutal clash of cavalry might and the terror of foot soldiers. You stay silent, fingers clawing at your armor's straps. One wrong move, and you'd be a tragic smear under hoof. You flatten yourself, sinking into the mud like a stone. You hear the final hoofbeat pound, mingled with the shriek of metal on bone. Then the horse surges past, leaving a spray of mud arcing through the air. As the hoofbeats fade, you glance up, catching a blur of knights with lances and swords poised, charging like torrents of flesh and steel. Some wheel back to clear a path, glancing at the cavalry skewering the battlefield. All blend into a chaotic symphony of hooves and scraping metal, shaking the earth. You grip your sword's hilt, struggling to rise, but your legs are weighed down by thick mud. Each attempt to move is hampered by the soggy, clinging earth. You stifle panic. Now is no time to falter. Another knight gallops toward you, spurs high, gleaming steel flashing with each swing. You drop fully to your knees, half submerged in mud, dodging the devastating momentum. You feel metal graze your armor, each jolt rippling through your shoulder and searing into your joints. The rule of survival is simple. Stay as far from the charging horse as possible. You twist slightly, eyes scanning for a gap in the iron rain. To your right, you spot a break where horses and riders have passed, leaving a small patch of open ground. You draw a deep breath. Mud, horse, and smoky silt lingering. Then summon resolve. You'll seize this fleeting chance to escape danger. You clear your throat, lift your head, and lock eyes on the gap. As a knight thunders by, you spring up, mimicking a comrade's frantic leap. Mud clings to your boots, your feet skid, but you somehow hold balance. You manage 2 steps, then trip over scattered bodies, crashing face first into the mire with a muffled groan. The chaos surges, Spears and lances whirl, bodies pile atop one another. Horses veer through crossroads, showcasing the cavalry's terrifying might. You hear the jangle of stirrup bells, the sharp clink of spurs, and the piercing cries of the wounded. It's a nightmare as you crawl, drag your sword, and dodge massive hooves. Mud cakes your eyes, tears and sweat blurring your vision. But instinct overrides exhaustion. You yank your sword, using it to brace yourself, then push off the mud, staggering upright. You tremble, but keep crawling toward the flickering gap. Another guttural hoofbeat roars, warning of the next charge. You lurch sideways as hooves graze your face, splattering mud across your hair and shoulders. The pounding fades, followed by a spear's whoosh as it sails past. In that moment, a gust tears through, sweeping your panic into the mire. You scramble up, dried mud crackling on your armor. You wipe your eyes, smearing a long streak of grime, clearing your view. You spot a narrow path amid fallen bodies and clumped spears. You lunge forward, your boot crushing an enemy's corpse, the crack chilling your spine. You recall the brittle breakfast, the frigid wash, the arrow storm, and now this cavalry tempest. You tell yourself you've never faced anything so fierce. Yet these trials have forged you, stronger, more resilient. Finally, you slip through the cavalry, reaching a safer hollow behind the defensive line, where the ground is drier and hoofbeats are faint. You collapse, your battered shield blocking some mud and the weak late-day light. You bow your head, clutching your sword, heart still racing. You exhale, your ragged breaths easing. Sweat, blood, and mud cling, but you ignore the sticky mess. Instead, a strange elation blooms. You've survived the cavalry's chaos, dodged death's hooves, and navigated the battle's swirling maelstrom. You lift your gaze to the gray, misty sky, where final rays pierce the clouds, glinting off your mud-streaked armor. You know this is merely a lull before the next storm. But you smile. You've learned survival's simple rule. Steer clear of charging horses, and in the worst chaos, trust your instincts. The Cavalry and Chaos chapter closes as you sit steadfast, sweat and blood dripping, but your eyes blaze with conviction. You know the war isn't over, yet you've conquered a brutal trial, surviving the thundering herd. Now you're ready to press on, and the story's soul will guide you through the next chapters until night falls and a gentle sleep truly beckons. You don't have time to brace yourself. Your face slams into the mud, the cold biting your skin. The chaos behind you echoes with hoofbeats and the urgent cries of battle. You're faced with two grim choices: stand and become a target amid the swirl of cavalry and infantry, or lie still, feigning death, waiting for the storm to pass. You hold your breath, trying to still your heart, which feels like it might stop. The wet mud clings heavily to your face, the stench of blood and damp earth thick in the air. You squeeze your eyes shut, as if that could make you vanish into the chaotic gusts. A shout rises from the rear of the line. "Forward! Don't stop!" But it's not for you. It belongs to those still bold enough to charge. You stay motionless. Your wrist grips the sword's hilt, though its weight presses into your palm. You don't let go, To lose your blade would strip you of defense, pushing survival further out of reach. The sword, caked in mud, bears the scars of the melee just endured. Around you, the chaotic sounds begin to fade. Hoofbeats dwindle to distant echoes, blending with the sporadic clank of metal as the enemy retreats. You hear your comrades' labored breaths as they pass. Those who notice you fallen, offering quick nods as if promising to meet at the journey's end. In this moment, your story feels rewritten in faint glimmers. Each pounding step a smear of memory, each stray metallic ting a low note in the battle's symphony. And you're the silent pause amid the chaos, the rest note of a life that slipped past death's scythe. You imagine yourself lying in the battlefield, a temporary corpse. In that instant, you grasp that survival often hinges on chance. A sidestep, a stumble, was enough to evade a lethal spear. But a moment's hesitation could have left you forever in the battle's dark. You hold your breath a moment longer, tuning to your heart's fervent beat. Each thud beneath the thick mud is a reminder you're still alive. You lift your face, cracking your eyes open. Before you lies a shattered scene, bodies strewn, swords abandoned, and thinning wisps of fog. The day's final sunlight catches dew on a helmet, glinting pale pink, a quiet comfort. You've survived a perilous day. You sit up slowly, hand sinking into the mire. Your palm is smeared with your own dried blood, the sticky mud weighing down your fingers. You flex your joints, feeling muscles still trembling. Sweat and grime cling to your forehead and cheeks. You inhale. The air is thin but free of the earlier chaos. A chill grazes your nose, as if asking, "Are you still okay?" You murmur to yourself, "I'm okay." And you allow a faint, singular smile, the only one today. It's not for enemies or comrades, but for you, the one who escaped sudden death and learned a brutal lesson about chance and survival. You tug off your mud-crusted helmet, setting it neatly beside you. Beneath, your hair is soaked, your face filthy. But appearances don't matter. Instead, a profound awakening stirs. Life, however fragile, endures. Your breaths warm against the cold, the trembling eases. You glance around, seeing comrades regroup, tending to the lightly wounded. They cast you knowing looks, as if saying, "Welcome back." You nod, rising with the support of your sword and shield. Though your body aches, a fresh vitality surges within. You shake the mud from your armor, carefully dislodging clinging clumps, as if shedding the fear and chaos. Then you raise your sword, not to fight, but as a sign. You're still here, unyielding. You join your comrades, forming ranks to press forward. Each step carries not dread, but resolve. You look ahead, where the open field seems to beckon, now a call of duty and life. In that moment, you trust your instincts, chance, and the fragile thread woven through mud and blood. You've learned a hard truth. In chaos, survival isn't about courage, but luck. Now you're ready to move on, carrying the mud of the past into the footprints of tomorrow. The blaring horn cuts through the thick smoke, a final note to the symphony of blood and mud. You rise from the mire caking your armor, exhaustion seeping into every vein. The battlefield around you falls eerily silent, haunted only by the fading echoes of clashing steel and the ragged breaths still pulsing in your chest. You stumble forward a few steps, your boots slipping on the slick ground, clinging to your sword's hilt to keep from collapsing. The acrid scent of ash and the burnt tang of fleeing horses lingers in the air. Around you, soldiers drop their weapons into the mud, trembling hands rummaging for empty water flasks or crumbs of stale bread, like survivors waking from a brutal dream. There are no cheers or victorious laughter. Instead, only the sound of boots trudging past fallen comrades, a scene both mournful and starkly raw. You see a shattered shield lying in the dirt, a hollow helmet beside a lifeless body. Rusted armor fragments sink into the muck, abandoned. You wonder, is this what we call victory? The question reverberates in your mind as you feel the wind sweep across the desolate field. It stirs dust and debris, tugging at your matted hair and battle scraps, clearing the way for a hollow silence. The breeze whistles through the gaps in your helmet, like the earth itself sighing. The soldiers form a ragged line, drained from the chaos. They wipe sweat and crusted blood from their armor, then shuffle to drag the wounded toward the aid camp. You catch a comrade's gaze, his eyes flickering with contradiction. Joy at survival, sorrow for the lost. Your hand rests on the heavy sword at your hip. Its blade, now warped with mud, glints with silver scratches amid the grime. It witnessed every slash, every frantic lunge, every arrow lodged in your shield. Now, it too is silent, like the battle itself. You turn to the horizon. The setting sun casts a cold golden glow, outlining the distant forest in a hazy shimmer. The sight sparks a fleeting thought. Victory isn't grandeur, but the moment you're allowed to stop fighting and return to life. A young soldier jogs over, pulling you from your silent stance. He offers a weary smile, his face etched with fatigue. Come on, back to camp before dark. No grand words, just a quiet invitation. You nod, joining him across the ravaged field. Each step leaves a mark in the wet mud, trailing long smears. You hear the slosh of water as your soaked boots cross puddles. Around you, comrades ahead and behind support one another, each carrying a mix of dread and fragile hope. As you glance back at the wreckage, you murmur to yourself, if this is victory, it's a strange one. No wine flows, no fanfares sound. Only cold wind and weary hearts remain, alongside an unanswered question. Who is this victory for? At camp, you'll shed your armor, clean your wounds, and hear the commander's quiet thanks. But this moment, touching the battlefield's earth, will linger in your heart, a final lesson on glory's fragility and survival's strength. And so, The end of battle chapter closes with your heavy steps across the barren field. You carry the echoes of silence, wind, and mud. A tale to be retold not as a glorious epic, but as a quiet, human hymn. As night falls, let your soul rest, dreaming of distant peace where war is only a memory. The first hours after the battle aren't peaceful, but a gasping climb from chaos to a new state. Cleanup. You become an unwilling medic, a leather flask of filthy water slung over your shoulder, water scavenged from battlefield puddles, steeped in mud and dried blood. Each splash on a wound stings like fire, the pain shooting to your brain. But no one else can do this for you. Medics are scarce. You and your comrades fumble through makeshift healing, washing with cold muck, patching with torn cloth and broken twigs, praying your pain doesn't fester into a breeding ground for disease. All around, the scene is starkly brutal, almost laughable, if not for the exhaustion and fear. Corpses of warriors and horses litter the ground, hope-laden beasts hacked into piles, awaiting burning or shallow burial. The stench of charred flesh mingles with damp mud, evoking a grim slaughterhouse. The air is thick as glue, each breath a spoonful of tainted water laced with the ghosts of the fallen. You kneel to clean a young soldier's thigh wound, a deep gash, red sinew exposed. He trembles from shock and cold, but you offer a faint smile, a quiet comfort. Everyone gets through this. It'll pass. You splash water, mud spattering his face. A soft chuckle escapes, eerie and tinged with irony about a soldier's fate in this dance with fire after battle. Still, it's a fleeting burst of life in a desolate afternoon. Rumors of plague and infection spread like a breeze. You hear sighs ripple through the camp. They say the last battle left bodies stacked, horses rotting. Disease will thrive. Some comrades grimace, wrapping cloth over their noses, then resume work reluctantly. You wonder if glory is just a facade masking the lurking threat of death. A soldier's life holds no rosy joy, only the reek of smoke, dried blood, and lingering death. After cleaning, you help the makeshift medics bind wounds. Ragged cloth wraps the thigh like tattered tape. You tie it tight until the soldier groans, then falls silent from pain. You quip, "Guess you'll dream of our stale lunch," smiling at your own aimless jest. Laughter, however faint, salvages a sliver of sanity after hours of chaos. The surroundings forbid aimless wandering. Carts, rigged with rope by medics, creak as they haul bodies for burning or hasty burial. Smoke rises thickly, stinging your eyes. The crackle of wood and the pop of flesh meeting flame sound like a dirge. You try not to linger on the sight, but images of bodies, sometimes mere rusted armor shadows, sear into your vision, haunting your dreams. As the sun dips behind the forest, the cold descends swiftly. You shiver, your armor's back still damp with mud. You drape a torn blanket over the wounded, then wrap a scrap around yourself. In the dim twilight, you see comrades smoking, puffing to fend off the chill and homesickness. You borrow a drag, inhaling deeply, exhaling white smoke, savoring the acrid warmth. In the stifling silence, you recall pre-battle moments, the stale bread and tough meat churning in your stomach, the frigid mud wash of Part 2, the muddy march, the sodden camp, the grandiose speech, the ragged ranks, the arrow storm, the chaotic melee, the harrowing sounds, and the sudden death. Now, it's framed by weary stances and grimy faces. History isn't a grand tale, but a chain of stubborn survival. You glance at an iron pot outside the tent, used to boil water for the few hopeful medics. It's barely enough to soak wounds, far from antiseptic. You peer into its base, charred twigs and ash dust the water's surface. You dip a cloth, muttering, "Today's battlefield detox," then chuckle softly. That laugh is a tiny raft against the muddy current. As night falls, the camp grows still. The medic's footsteps fade beyond the willows. You huddle by a dying torch, one hand wrapped in cloth, the other clutching the near-empty flask of filthy water. You tell yourself, tomorrow, another morning of dry bread, mud baths, and marching. The thought doesn't weary you but offers odd comfort. You and your comrades share this burden, and life, somehow, goes on. Before closing your eyes, you gaze at the night sky, twinkling stars, small and distant. They're silent witnesses to countless unspoken wars. You whisper to them, "Is there a star up there watching me? A soldier in mud and blood?" Then you smile, your heart lightening. Survival has granted you another dawn, another chance to weave this human tale, unvarnished. You ease your shoulders, your breaths steadying. The stench of smoke, blood, and death clings to each inhale, but you've learned not to let it bind your mind. You murmur to the void, "Tomorrow we clean again." Then you close your eyes, awaiting dreams of a warmer place, where wooden shields aren't heavy, where war's horns yield to gentle lullabies. Good night. As the ash rain of battle settles, you shake the mud from your armored sleeve, stepping away from the wreckage and death of mere hours ago. The ravaged battlefield fades under the weak afternoon sun, giving way to a new scene. Low, crooked earth walls, snaking like the tattered edges of a ruined map. You tread on patchy wild grass, a strange stillness replacing the war drums still echoing in your chest. Your ears catch a distant sound, the faint shuffle of weary footsteps, stirring ancient memories. You envision feudal China, not yet the majestic Great Wall, but humble mounds of earth, barely a handspan high, stretching across rice fields and small deserts. People built them by hauling packed dirt, staking bamboo, and adding stones when possible. Thousands, starving farmers to captive laborers, dragged hoes and shoveled damp soil in silence. You hold a rough stone, its gritty surface under your fingers, imagining the calloused hands of a Qin dynasty worker stacking each one like lids on makeshift coffins. Along the worn path you follow, jagged stones form meandering walls. Wind whistles through cracks, carrying the scent of damp earth and ash. You breathe deeply, swallowing air laced with ancient sweat and dried blood. The weight of it recalls tending wounds. No matter how much you cleaned, scars festered. So, too, These walls hold buried wounds within. Suddenly, the scene shifts. The crude mounds merge and rise, sprawling high across limestone ridges. You hear the harsh commands of the court. The Qin Emperor orders the walls joined. Slackers face severe punishment. The decree seems to shatter the scattered earthworks, forging them into an endless wall, piercing low clouds and plunging into valleys. You feel a colossal ambition swell. With one imperial word, millions obey, some breathing their last, others enduring pain until their final moments. The sunset casts slanted rays through cracks in the new wall, painting long, mottled streaks of light. You step closer, pressing your hand to a moss-covered stone, cool, solid, a witness to the past. Beneath your touch, the rugged surface crumbles slightly. You imagine human bones beneath the foundation, for plague and injury claimed countless lives, their bodies often buried hastily in the very earth of the wall, entombed within its heart. You close your eyes, listening to the silent sounds, the thud of hammers on stone, the groans of laborers, the barked orders of overseers. Amid this phantom din, the dynasty's hunger for power and immortality rings clear. The Great Wall isn't just a barrier against nomads, but a veil hiding countless tales of blood and tears. You open your eyes, continuing along the path skirting the wall's base. Mud clings to your boots, but you don't mind. Each step bridges the brutal battlefield to this grueling worksite. Qin laborers once trudged through similar muck, stones on their shoulders, sweat soaking their tunics, never daring to pause. As you halt, they seem to see you, a comrade from the future, sharing their toil, their dream of building something eternal. You glimpse a makeshift medical crew, not for soldiers, but for wall builders. They smear herbs on stone-cut wounds, scavenging for pain relief in the barren desert. The scrape of shovels and the grind of stones blend into a harsh symphony. You touch your shoulder, feeling history's pulse in your veins. As darkness falls, you gaze at the winding path, the wall's crest rising like a horizon. The day's last light glints off its edges, a chain of giant lanterns guiding through the misty night. You wonder if, centuries later, anyone still hears the faint sighs of sweat and stone beneath the foundation. You believe that sometimes, in dreams, the wall itself breathes. You stoop to pick up a square stone, its weight biting your calloused palm. It's heavy, pressing into your hand, but you clutch it like a buried tail. You place it into a gap in the wall, pressing firmly, as Qin workers once did, leaving no space. These simple stones, stacked by imperial decree, formed a monument grander than dreams, a dream of power, immortality, and human resilience. The night wind rises, carrying the scent of pine and cold stone. You lean against the rampart, feeling damp rocks through your armor. It's both comforting and lonely. You know that, though this endless wall endures, its builders have passed, leaving their work and a void in humanity's soul. You drop the stone, hearing a faint clink. It's a punctuation mark for this chapter. From battlefield mud to construction mire. You close your eyes, your mind wandering between worlds. At the wall's base, the weary steps of ancient laborers. By its side, your own, bearing the story history entrusted to you. Only the winds whistle through stone cracks, the worn earth beneath your feet, and your steady breaths remain. The foundation for the next chapter. From desolate work site to the glory of empires. But first, let the wall, with its cracks, stones, sweat, and blood, gently lull your soul into an ancient sleep, where history is not just events, but the breath of countless generations. Good night, and if you dream of stone and mist, let the dream guide you through the Great Wall's endless journey. The desert wind tears at your cloak, carrying fine dust that clings to your hair and collar. Hooves strike the scorching sand, kicking up clouds with each hurried step. You're not a warrior wielding a lance or bearing sharp teeth, but a courier bearing the era's most precious cargo, letters from the postmaster. Strapped to your back, the leather satchel of mail is a silent companion, cradling the memories, news, and hopes of an entire frontier. The path ahead stretches 2,000 miles through sun-scorched prairies, rolling dunes, and vast, treeless valleys. Each mile is a trial, blistering heat, dry dust coating your skin, the steady thud of hooves pumping like your own breath. You must finish in 10 days, or the post's reputation falters, and you could be replaced, perhaps with nothing more than stale cornbread and cold rice. You tighten the reins, urging your horse faster, lips cracked, but curling into a faint smile. This isn't just a delivery, it's a pioneering journey, laying the foundation for fast information across the remote Wild West. Behind you, hoofbeats slow as you swap horses at the first relay station. Station 1, a cluster of wooden shacks, holds a few waiting hands eager for the satchel. They gaze at you with awe. You've arrived in a blink, compared to weeks on horseback. You pause mere minutes, passing the leather bag to the next rider, then race to the next station. Each horse change demands sharp focus. 4 quick steps to mount, a twist to secure the satchel, then a lean into the saddle as you plunge through sand. You feel the horse's shoulders surge, its 10 hooves pounding the earth, a low note in the wild symphony of the West. The wind howls, carrying the scent of distant pines and dry grass. You breathe evenly, your heartbeat matching each gallop. In your mind, a small town shimmers on the horizon, the final station, where you'll hand off the mail before it's ferried across rivers or into bustling cities. You reach Station 6, then 10, then 12. Each stop holds its own stories. A 16-year-old boy on his first ride, an old woman awaiting news from a barren farm, a noble clutching a rose-scented love letter. Their eyes, fleeting or solemn, shine with faith in this invisible railway of hope. On day 8, you cross the Yellowstone Valley, where geysers steam and nature's grandeur looms. Your horse craves the clear stream, and you recall the foul water of battlefield camps. But this pure flow is a reminder. The pioneer spirit thrives on harsh terrain. You lift your cloak, filling your flask with crisp water, drinking deeply before charging on. The cool rush down your throat urges you to stay strong for the final doors you'll knock upon. Day 10, you race to the finish. A large wooden lodge, the Bolt Express flag flapping proudly. You sweep through the gate, handing the satchel to the station master. A swift bugle blasts, signaling completion after 10 grueling days. They shout the mantra, 2,000 miles in 10 days. A feat once unthinkable, now realized by the Pony Express. You glance back at the trail, dust settling, hoofprints carving ruts, mud streaking your cloak. Yet the pioneer's fire in your heart burns on, even as, after just 18 months, the telegraph rises, rendering your service obsolete. The Pony Express flag is lowered, replaced by cold electric wires. Information now flows through metal, faster, easier, but lacking the soul of dusty hoofbeats. Still, Pony Express is etched into legend, like the echo of hooves lingering across the plains, a reminder that once sweat, blood, and fervent hearts bridged vast lands. You, the story's soul, smile faintly as you touch an old wooden post, feeling its weathered grain and fire-singed marks. You whisper, though the telegraph reigns, that pioneer era will never fade. As you close your eyes, let the thud of hooves and your panting breaths at each station seep into your dreams. Picture yourself astride, desert wind grinding your face, dust coating your cloak, heart fixed on the trail ahead. Proof of the Pony Express's unyielding spirit, a legend that reshaped how the world connects. Good night, and may you dream of galloping couriers, fleeting yet bright enough to spark hope for generations to come. Through each phase, from the muddy battlefield to the wild rhythm of cavalry hooves, from the dusty Pony Express stations to the violin's soul-soothing strains, we see a tapestry of legacy far beyond mere physical relics. It's the immortal breath of humans daring to face hardship, the resilient spirit of communities overcoming tragedy and injustice, and the lesson of history reminding us that in chaos, the thirst for survival and connection forges true glory. History isn't just the tale of the mighty, but the fragments of sorrow lingering in the earth, where ashes of the fallen mix with the violin's lingering notes. Time and again, we witness the shadow of injustice, the powerful lording over the poor. But in those darkest moments, hope flares like a torch in the night. Remember, legacy isn't buried in hollow fame, but lives on in every empathetic heart, every soul eager to learn. If humanity keeps sharing these stories, then no matter how storms sweep through generations, hope, strength, and warnings will echo, guiding the future.